Amari Cooper needed 15 yards in yesterday's Christmas Eve game against the Houston Texans to break a Cleveland Browns record. Little did we know, Amari Cooper had another Cleveland Browns record in his sights. Your latest post-game Lockon Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, wishing you all the merriest of Christmas. Victory Monday, Cleveland Browns 36-22 over the Houston Texans on Christmas Eve in Texas. I thank all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. And if you were not part of the everyday crowd, well, get on the bus, Gus, and subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Download the Gametime app. Create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. 36-22 Cleveland Browns beat the Houston Texans in Houston, 2 touchdowns. Even don't let it fool you. We all know the score was not reflective of that game yesterday. Cleveland Browns now 10-5, still top seed wild card in the AFC playoff race. One game lead over the Pack. Looking pretty towards Thursday night against the New York Jets. We all knew Amari Cooper was coming into yesterday's game 15 yards short of becoming the first Cleveland Brown receiver to surpass 1,000 yards 2 seasons in a row. Well, Coop got all that and more on the first play of the game. Joe Flacco, little play action. Amari Cooper gets behind the safety, 53 yards. Amari Cooper goes well over that 1,000-yard mark en route to 11 receptions, 263 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the day, and a 2-point conversion. 265 yards. Amari Cooper now at 1,250 yards receiving on 72 receptions this season. Just to give a little talk here on Amari, this has been a crazy, crazy impressive year. Now, if you remember, the everydayers, I'm sure you guys do, we go back to week 2, the Monday night game in Pittsburgh. We're going up to that game, and Amari Cooper's dealing with, post-surgery, obviously, effects. Obviously, he was dealing with scar tissue issues. We didn't know if Amari was going to play in that game. We weren't sure. Then you fast forward as the weeks went on. So obviously a rough week that week. Amari did go on to have 7 receptions for 90 yards that night in Pittsburgh. The Denver game gets a little dinged up. Seattle game, he was dealing with rib issues against the Denver Broncos, dealing with a head concussion injury against the Seattle Seahawks. This has been a rough year physically for Amari Cooper, a little bit beat up, but you want to talk about a guy who just goes out there, does the grind, gets in every day, puts in his work, and the results show. Amari Cooper, 72 receptions, 1,250 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. A miraculous effort from a great player you don't hear a lot about. The man is quiet, goes about his business. But for a receiver to be able to put up that kind of production while playing with 4 different quarterbacks, that is crazy, crazy good. Hats off Amari Cooper. It has been one hell of a season for Amari Cooper up until this point. Obviously, he and Joe's relationship just went on. If you talk, it was 11 for 265, still went for another 10 for 212 against this Houston Texans secondary. Led to 2 touchdowns, a long one over the middle, 2-point conversion. Amari Cooper was in his bag. He and Joe Flacco, obviously, it has been 4 starts that these guys have been working together, but the relationship is there. Obviously, you see 2 veterans, even though they don't have any past relationship together, it is just there. It is just clicking between these 2 guys, and obviously it clicked in a major way on Christmas Eve down in Texas. Joe was impressive, obviously a large amount of yardage, 368 yards. The 2 touchdowns, look, these would have been situations where the Browns probably would have kick some field goals. They pushed the envelope a little bit because they did not have a field goal kicker available. Dustin Hopkins hurt his hamstring on the kickoff return for a touchdown by the Texans earlier in the game. Obviously something we're going to monitor for the Browns here. Certainly something we're going to monitor, with an express level to it, as the Browns will be playing again Thursday night at home against the New York Jets. So the Cleveland Browns, obviously, even though it's Christmas Day, short week, Browns have a little work here to do because they're going to need a kicker in here for Thursday night, most likely against the New York Jets. So Andrew Berry, hope the kids open up the presents. Hope you had a great morning with the family. But Browns general manager obviously has some work here to do. Joe Flacco, 4 starts for the Cleveland Browns. He's over 1,200 yards to this point. It's just... I don't even know what the words are or enough superlatives can be given to this guy who just came in essentially out of nowhere. Nobody was interested in Joe Flacco. He has thrown 1,307 yards in 4 starts. He is averaging a little bit over 325 yards per game to this point as your Cleveland Browns quarterback. 4 starts, 10 touchdowns to this point, 7 interceptions. Yes, not great, but you can understand the interception number as a guy who's getting acclimated to a system, getting acclimated to new talent, and it's gone incredibly well. Obviously, David Njoku gets into the end zone yesterday. Again, new career high for touchdowns for the Chiefs this year. This whole thing of bringing in Joe, and, again, the everydayers know things I've talked about here over the last couple of weeks with Joe. This Browns offense is getting vertical at a point we have never seen before during the Kevin Stefanski regime here. And yes, this is always something coaches had, but it's just having the comfortability to go to it and having the true and utter belief in somebody to do it. And Joe Flacco, look, there's been times with Deshaun Watson, but we really have not gotten to see that far of an extended stretch of Deshaun Watson to see it all come together like we have for Joe here over this past month. In LA, he was ripping the ball all over the place, and then it's just really, really gotten into the groove here. 2 straight home games, the Jaguars and the Bears, and then, of course, a monster effort yesterday on the road against the Houston Texans. Yes, they may have taken their foot off the gas pedal a little bit too early by taking some starters out. The game got a little bit closer, 36-22, than it truly was. Keep in mind, the Texans only scored 2 touchdowns from their offense. Of course, one was the kickoff return. But with Joe and no running game to speak of whatsoever. Yes, they get 2 touchdowns yesterday on the ground, Cleveland Browns, and this is something that's certainly going to have to try to be addressed, fixed, something. The Browns going to have to do some way to find a way to get the running game involved, because you cannot believe that Joe Flacco is going to be able to sustain this pace that he's on right now. It is a ridiculous effort from this guy. Look, nobody called. Nobody was interested. Cleveland Browns had no choice. They go out, get a veteran, a solid veteran to come in here. And it's Joe's not just held down the fort. Joe Flacco has excelled to this point. Like I said, monster effort. Over 1,300 yards, 4 starts, 10 touchdowns. Cleveland Browns pulled a rabbit out of the hat. And Joe Flacco is rewarding them handsomely. We're going to continue on here. A lot to get to. Christmas edition, Victory Monday edition of your latest Locked On Browns. Browns victorious yesterday on Christmas Eve, 36-22 against the Houston Texans. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Jeff Lloyd, Victory Monday, Victory Christmas Day on Locked On Browns. And I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd, we'll make a new plan. Stand, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Of course, the show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Yesterday in Houston, Christmas Eve, Cleveland Browns 36-22 victory over the Houston Texans, putting them at 10-5 on the season, top wild card seed at the moment. Buffalo Bills, 9 wins, only team in this race with 9 wins, 1 game behind the Cleveland Browns, whole bunch to be worked out there. You're 8-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. You're 8-7 Cincinnati Bengals. A whole bunch of teams trying to stick around, find a way to sneak into this AFC playoff party. The Cleveland Browns right now sitting in a prime position. Browns will see and obviously anticipate and watch what happens with the Baltimore Ravens Monday night, Christmas night against the San Francisco 49ers. That could get closer. Browns are still very much in contention for an AFC North title. The path to possibly a number one overall seed is a little bit murkier right now for the Cleveland Browns. Look, win and you're in. Let the other stuff fall as it may, but the Cleveland Browns can officially clinch their playoff ticket as early as Thursday night's game against the New York Jets. Game is going to be a little bit more difficult than I think people think. New York Jets can play, and they can play hard. It's going to be interesting how it all plays out Thursday night when the Jets do face the Cleveland Browns. The defensive side of the ball, and of course, the Houston Texans. And look, nobody in Cleveland's going to feel bad for the Houston Texans. They had to trot out Case Keenum and Davis Mills yesterday. If any team is going to feel zero sympathy for having to go to your second and third quarterback, it's certainly not going to be the Cleveland Browns, who are rolling right now with quarterback number 4. And of course, nobody is going to get the kind of luck that the Cleveland Browns have gotten from their backup quarterbacks. Every one of them's won a game. Joe Flacco is 3-1. That's not the way it's supposed to go in the NFL. So the Houston Texans going into this game yesterday with Case Keenum, eventually playing Davis Mills more than they played Case Keenum, it just wasn't going to be their day against this Cleveland Browns defense. So Darius Smith, we had talked over a couple of weeks ago when the news first came out about Owusu-Koramoah and his pectoral injury. Didn't play yesterday. I'm not sure what the path is. I'm not sure. We don't have a final word whether or not he's going to be able to make it through here. I think the Browns are hoping there's a path where Owusu-Koramoah can maybe help them in the playoffs. But one player that needed to step up, and this was probably even before Ogbo's injury, was Darius Smith. The Browns just weren't getting the production that they were hoping to be getting from the veteran pass rusher they brought in from the Minnesota Vikings in the offseason right after the draft. But Zadarius Smith, over his last 3 games, 3 sacks, 2 sacks yesterday. Zadarius is starting to find a comfort level here, starting to find a little bit of a production level. And sacks usually tend to come in bunches. Just as Myles Garrett has not been getting sacks over the last few weeks, they're starting to pick up for Zadarius Smith. And there's a much, much needed. Any chance that the Browns can get any part of pass protection having to focus their eyes on something other than Myles Garrett just increases the chance that Myles Garrett can get his. So Zadarius Smith putting together a solid effort here over the last few weeks, stringing together some good games, some productive games, really starts to aid this Cleveland Browns team as far as getting to their, ultimate goal and having all pistons firing in the engine as they get hopefully here to the playoffs. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, nothing's changed there. He is just an electric player here in year 3. Again, I will say, in my opinion, one of the most improved defenders in the entire NFL. It's really coming together for JOK. Obviously had an interception yesterday as well. JOK is just really put a nice season together for himself and finally really putting it all together here. Sione Taki, another player. Now, Sione, obviously not the veteran savvy as much as Anthony Walker, but Sione Taki is a high effort player, is a high energy player. Went back to Houston yesterday, obviously 1 year before in Houston, one of the most difficult days of Sione Taki's life, as the ACL injury led to an entire long, extensive rehab. He was able to get back just in time for week 1. Sione Taki goes out yesterday, 7 tackles, 6 solo tackles, and starting to show more and more of that range of motion, and obviously his ability to go sideline to sideline. The mobility is starting to get better and better for Sione Taki each and every week, which is really beneficial for Sione Taki, as by only signing a 1-year deal to come back with the Cleveland Browns, Sione Taki obviously will be a free agent at year's end and trying to do everything he can to hopefully pad an extensive contract coming his way for Sione Taki. D'Anthony Bell, 6 solo tackles yesterday. And again, Juan Thornhill unable to go yesterday. So the Browns go with the safeties of Hickman. They go with the safeties of D'Anthony Bell. They go with Duron Harmon. D'Anthony Bell, 6 solo tackles yesterday. And when D'Anthony Bell is on the field, when D'Anthony Bell is making a tackle, just looks a little bit different. Guys are getting violently thrown around. D'Anthony Bell is a physical player. And right away, if there wasn't a number on his jersey, you would know which player was D'Anthony Bell. The physicality shows. The effort shows. How this guy went the crazy route that he did out of school, working, trying to get some money to put himself back in school. goes the undrafted route, comes in, works his tail off, finds a role on special teams, and now all of a sudden here the Cleveland Browns are in this really, really difficult spot of having three great safeties that they loved and playing all three of them. And right now at this point in the season, they don't have any of them. Two of them, one of them is not coming back in McLeod, Grantel, but the hope is that he will come back for an eventual playoff run. Juan Thornhill still hasn't practiced yet with the calf, hasn't played. I think he played 4 or 5 games this year to this point for Juan Thornhill. So it's been a difficult road for Juan Thornhill, but has not changed the way the safety play has been for the Cleveland Browns team. Regardless of the name, the Browns are getting quality play out of the safeties, and Duron Harmon yesterday gets on the board with his first interception as a Cleveland Brown. You continue cruising through the defensive side of the ball here. Ronnie Hickman obviously in on 6 tackles yesterday, 3 solo. Myles Garrett a tackle for loss. Martin Emerson, and this was always something we were worried about with Martin Emerson, the physicality, the stickiness, the grabbiness. Yesterday was a day where the officials decided that they were going to call it on Martin Emerson. Fine. Browns ended up winning. But, if this is the type of player he is, it's either penalties or they're not penalties. So when are we calling him and when are we not calling him? It seemed like yesterday was a day where the officials wanted to point out number 23 and certainly, threw the flags on Martin Emerson yesterday. Pass defenses yesterday, obviously the Browns had 11 broken up passes. D'Anthony Bell had 2 of them. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah had 2 of them. Harmon, obviously with interception 1. Martin Emerson 1. Darius Smith batted ball. Greg Newsome, Alex Wright, and another sack yesterday for Alex Wright. Now we're talking about players trying to step up when other players are out. Ogbenai Okoronkwo out. Maurice Hurst out. 2 guys that were vital and integral to the pass rush the Cleveland Browns have been getting all season long. Well, Alex Wright, as some guys have had to be stepped out and taken out, Alex Wright has been a player that stepped up 2 weeks in a row now. Alex Wright with a sack, 3 sacks on the season for the second-year defensive end. A player that was always a weird draft evaluation. We all assumed that he was a really, really good and athletic player. We never got to see any testing numbers. The tape had him inside at UAB. The tape had him outside at UAB. The only thing UAB knew was that he was their best overall individual defensive lineman. So if they needed him on the inside, they put him on the inside. If they needed him on the outside, they put him on the outside. This is something that is aiding Alex right now in his time here with the Cleveland Browns. He is not a stranger to go inside. He is certainly getting better and nuanced on the outside. He is a very, very disciplined player. He's an assignment-driven player. And once these guys get confident and get very, very much established within their role, then all of a sudden the thinking goes down and the talent takes over. And that's what you're seeing with a player like Alex Wright. In my opinion, is Alex Wright probably ready to go and maybe take that Zadarius Smith role next year? Him and Ogbo opposite Myles Garrett, and let the Browns figure out the rest. Obviously, Isaiah McGuire there as well. But the Cleveland Browns are really starting to get a real return of investment on the pick they put into Alex Wright just where they needed it. Look, we don't get to see things click the way they are for the Cleveland Browns right now very often. But for a team that every time a little turmoil, a little adversity showed up, it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. It is the complete opposite for your Cleveland Browns right now. Every time there's a ding to a player or somebody's hurt or there's a little adversity, this Cleveland Browns team steps it up tenfold. And it is refreshing to see because we haven't had that kind of history here with the Cleveland Browns in a long, long time. We're going to get to segment 3, Victory Monday, Christmas Victory Monday. Your latest Lockon Browns continues to roll on, and don't you dare walk away. If you're like me, I got teenage girls. I never know what to buy them. I know one thing, they'll always be a hit, and that's concert tickets. The wife and the girls, they love going to see their live music. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big concert. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater needs near you. They got killer last-minute deals. They got all-in prices. You get a view from your seat. They have a best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They offer a lowest price guarantee. They offer event cancellation protection. Heck, they offer job loss protection. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal. No hidden fees. You buy tickets in seconds, 2 taps, and you are set to go. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after the event starts. So if you're not interested in the opening act, you can hold out and try to get yourself a great deal. With Zone Deals, you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Jeff Lloyd, Merry Christmas. Happy Victory Monday. Your Victory Monday, Lockon Browns, Cleveland Browns 36, Houston Texans 22. Browns get to 10 wins on the season on Christmas Eve in Houston. Joe Flacco, monster ever, over 360 yards in the air. Amari Cooper, 11 receptions, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mr. Cooper went down to Houston and basically told those boys, you ain't ready for me. We talked a lot during the week about Stingley, talked about a lot of the other players. Yes, Texans had injuries, and no, I'm not shedding a tear. No, I'm not going to be sympathetic. I don't care. If there's one team that does not care about another team in the NFL dealing with injuries or having to take advantage of that, it's certainly the Cleveland Browns, and they did just that yesterday. Team now sits 10-5, top wild card seed at the time being. Buffalo Bills behind them with 9 wins. Whole bunch of other teams right now fighting for their lives to get that third and final wild card spot. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns control their own destiny and can officially clinch a playoff spot Thursday night at home against the New York Jets. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills with a 1-game lead over the field right now. They control their own wild card destiny as well. The Buffalo Bills starting to right the ship here. Almost they did lose Saturday night against the Chargers, but that is a victory that helps shape your team and makes your team understand just how integral and just how important this time of the season is here. Look, for the Browns, you need this game against the Jets. And look, the Jets, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than people think. The New York Jets can play defense. They play defense very, very well. This is not going to be an easy game Thursday night. But for the Browns right now, you are in prime position here. You still possibly have a shot at the AFC North. That picture will become clearer at the end of Christmas night as Baltimore Ravens face the San Francisco 49ers. And there is no team that is as hot as the San Francisco 49ers right now in all of the NFL. But the Browns just continue to find a way to do it. And what did you see? Obviously, the video afterwards, Coach Stefanski obviously giving his post-game victory speech to his team, handing out game balls. And everybody, 1-0. What do you got to do to get to 1-0 this week? And look, it does sound kind of corny, and it does sound even more corny when it's not working. But for the Cleveland Browns, there's a belief factor into this. They believe it works for them. They are getting it done in a major way. No obstacle is too big. No player leaving the locker room, no player being unavailable to play is too big. This is a unit that just literally believes in the next man up philosophy, and they find a way to make it work. Injuries yesterday. Obviously, Dustin Hopkins leaves the game with his hamstring injury. Certainly going to be a little bit of an issue for the Cleveland Browns going into Thursday night's game against the New York Jets. Martin Emerson leaves the game early with a shin injury. There will be no media availability on Christmas Day, so obviously maybe we'll start to get more information on the ease injuries on Tuesday as the Browns get right back to business. So Christmas Eve in Houston, get home as fast as you can. Spend some time with your family on Monday. In the building Tuesday, got about 56 hours or so before you get yourself ready from Tuesday when you walk in the building to tee it up, lace it up, fire it up. Thursday night football as the New York Jets come to town in a game that the Cleveland Browns want. They want to get this over with. The Browns want this driver's seat. So they know, hey, if we can go into week 18, we might not have to play our starters. We may be able to rest some people, something the Browns have not ever in my time here in 7 years covering this team, been in a position to do where they can sit their talents and get them ready for what will be a playoff game, hopefully in January. Just a special, special day. You know, Amari Cooper, a lot of talk here as Amari will turn 30 in June. Is he going to be here for a third season with the Cleveland Browns? He won't be here. Amari Cooper's going to be here after what he's done for this team the last 2 years. There's no sign of anything slowing down on Amari yet. The route running is a choice. as it's ever been, cooking guys. Even the long one yesterday, pass interference. Amari still catches it, still takes it down the sideline to the house. First play of the game, play action. You see the confidence in Joe. You see the confidence in Amari, 53 yards down the field. Basically just telling the NFL, telling the Houston Texans, we're not going away. And if anything, we're getting better as we get more comfortable with our new quarterback, Joe Flacco, the South Jersey kid, Delaware kid, former Baltimore kid. Well, Joe Flacco is all the rage of Cleveland, Ohio right now, and getting it done in a major way. The Cleveland Browns take down the Houston Texans 36-22. No running game, no problem. We'll just start throwing it for 350 a clip because that's just the way Jersey Joe Flacco does it, apparently. 10 touchdowns, 4 starts. The relationship between he, Cooper, Njoku just cooking right now. The Browns are hot. 3 in a row, hopefully looking to make it 5 in a row to close out this 2023 regular season. Whatever you thought this season was going to be, with all these changes, with all these injuries, with all this newness as the season has gone on, the Cleveland Browns have only gotten better. Cleveland Browns 10-5, 36-22 victory over the Houston Texans. I am Jeff Lloyd. It's now my 7th season covering the Brownies here for you guys here on Locked On. I'll be here another 17 if they, good Lord, are willing to keep me around here. It's been a blast with you guys. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. To the everyday crowd, you guys are the best. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that stuff. If you want in on the everyday crowd, it's simple. You don't need a code. You don't need to know nobody. All you got to do is subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.